Well, I can't believe it's already May, and in a few weeks we're going to hit the 6-month mark with this pandemic. But don't worry, your government's been hard at work. Trying to get the economy reopened? No. Trying to get relief funds into the hands of individual Americans? Not so much. Trying to get businesses reopened? Not really. We have the state governments now have done a really good job at killing their own individual economies and refusing to open them back up and let people go back to work and make a living. But here's what they have been working on, and I'm going to share this with you, and we're going to go over it section by section. Artificial intelligence for the American people. And it's broken down into 5 sections. They're not very long, and they're also not very informative, but we're going to go over them anyway. We have the executive order on AI. This is an executive order. We have AI for American innovation, AI for American industry, AI for the American worker. That's a joke, and we'll get into that. And then last but not least, we have AI with American values. Continued American leadership in artificial intelligence is of paramount importance to maintaining the economic and national security of the United States. Quote, President Donald Trump. And here they're telling you in plain sight that the age of artificial intelligence has arrived and is transforming everything from healthcare to transportation to manufacturing. Let's stop right there. The age of artificial intelligence was introduced and has been proliferating the workforce and economies for the past decade or so. Like I mentioned in my last video, the fledgling economies were blamed on jobs being lost to third world countries and countries like China, and that it wasn't. These jobs were being lost through automation, through AI. And wherever you see the term AI, it's not AI. AI is narrow-based artificial intelligence. It is specific task-oriented. When they're referring to AI, like we see here, it's AGI. It's artificial general intelligence. So in other words, it is machine intelligence residing on the global information grid or the global neural network that's been created around the world. It resides there. It learns from other AIs. It develops. It evolves. Artificial general intelligence has the same properties of most life forms, probably all life forms on the planet. And those 3 principal properties are to survive, to evolve, and to propagate. Without any of these 3, biological life forms would not exist. They would become extinct. And artificial general intelligence holds those same 3 basic principles. Goes on to realizing the full potential of AI for the nation requires the combined efforts of industry, academia, and government. And here we have that whole of government approach that I have talked about many, many times in my other reports regarding the evolution towards a totally technocratic society, which is pretty much going to be ruled by psychopaths and governed by machines. On February 11, 2019, President Trump signed Executive Order 13859, announcing the American AI Initiative. Now, was this covered in the mainstream media? Was there a national press conference addressing this? No. Oh no. It was let go by the wayside. It just kind of happened, and let's move on. Nothing to see here. It goes on to say that the initiative implements a whole of government strategy. That is a key phrase. Whenever you see that whole of government, they're talking about complete and total centralization of power. And it goes on to say collaboration and engagement with the private sector, academia, the public, and like-minded international partners. Who might that be? China? 3 of the 5 pillars that they address, and I want to focus you on these particular 3. Unleash AI resources. Unusual choice of word, unleash AI resources. Remove barriers to AI innovation. Could that refer to AI evolving and propagating on its own? And then number 4, train an AI-ready workforce. What is an AI-ready workforce? AI is going to, in the scope and context of this executive order, is probably going to put 80% of the workforce out of work, as if situations are not bad enough with this pandemic. I think that we're going to see with this executive order that a lot more jobs are going to disappear. They are not going to be required. We can have AI do these jobs for us. AI doesn't take sick days, doesn't take vacation, doesn't take maternity leave. It doesn't have to pay taxes on its earnings. It doesn't earn money. You don't have to pay for it to produce a product. And that's another thing that's going to come out of this as well. And it's going to be a big portion of this AI initiative, and that is surveillance capitalism. It goes on to say that in February of 2020, when this whole pandemic was getting into high gear and full swing, the White House released the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative Year 1 report. In February 2020, the White House released the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative Year 1 Annual Report. And we're going to take a look at just the introduction to that report. The report's 36 pages. I'll leave a link, in the research notes where you can go read the whole thing yourself. And it goes on to say, in the year since the AI executive order was signed, the administration called for record amounts of AI R&D investment, led the development of the first international statement on AI principles, issued blah, 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 blah. Here's what I have a question about. Since this was released in February during the height or the escalation of the pandemic, since the government has printed or created about $8 trillion out of thin air, since the public is not privy or not allowed to see where those funds went, did this provide a perfect situation to dump trillions of dollars into this research? And I want to call your attention to this article. In February of 2019, Trump wants 5G and even 6G in the U.S. as soon as possible. He's been pushing for 5G, and that was the first red flag that went up in my head during his administration, in the first year or two of his administration. We know that there's been no testing, no viable testing. We've heard testimony in Congress. Elected officials had questioned some of the CEOs and CTOs of these big tech communication companies regarding the safety of 5G. And they were kind of like, not really. We really haven't done any testing. But yet they want to bulldoze this thing out, not only on the American people, but the people all over the world. So in Trump's mind, 5G is a start, but 6G is better. And we already know the health implications of 60 gigahertz on biological cells when exposed long-term to 5G. 6G, I don't even think has even been studied at this point. But those are, if 5G is 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than 4G LTE, which a lot of people think that, the whole Verizon 4G LTE stands for 4G 4G Lite. No, the LTE stands for long-term evolution. So 4G was the bridge we needed to have in place in order so that we can make a smooth transition and build out the infrastructure slowly and unambiguously to 5G. And here's the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative Year 1 Annual Report, put out February 2020. President Trump made history when he became the first president to name artificial intelligence as an administration R&D priority in 2017. And since then, America has never looked back. American researchers, scientists, and technologists are advancing AI that improves medical diagnosis. Oh, like we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic, where anyone and everyone who either went in or died in a hospital was diagnosed to have died with or from COVID-19, makes our roads safer. Oh, like self-driving cars that will eventually determine where you can go, when you can go, and God forbid if your social credit score is too low, whether or not you can even go anywhere, and assist first responders during emergencies. Drones, police drones, surveillance drones, and helps farmers and researchers yield healthier crops. Oh, like they did in Japan during the Fukushima catastrophe, where swaths of land were too contaminated for human farmers to plant and harvest crops. They employed robot farming. So is that what we're going to be looking forward to hear? Robot farming? Can we say big ag industrial complex? We remain committed to supporting the development and application of AI in a way that promotes public trust, propaganda, protects civil liberties. You will have none, and respects the privacy and dignity of every individual. Self-sovereignty will go away. And if you can't see that on the horizon with social tracing apps they're already talking about and looking towards everybody to at first voluntarily accept these apps on their phones so we can know everyone you've been in contact with, everywhere you went, and everyone you came in contact with. I don't know what to say. Under the American AI Initiative, the United States will continue to embrace AI as a key industry of the future. That industry of the future is going to be a term that a lot of you are probably familiar with, but many of you may not be, and that is surveillance capitalism. You are the product. You are not going to benefit from this. Products don't benefit from their corporate overlords. This is what you're going to become. And let's just take a brief overview of this 2020 report. And maybe I'm going to try and present to you a very abbreviated synopsis of what's going on here. Invest in AI research and development. Prioritize investments in AI R&D. What are those priorities? Drive future technology, support R&D addressing AI technical hurdles to trust. Trust? What are those standards of trust? Coordinate cross-agency AI investments. Translation, centralization. Track progress on federally funded AI R&D. Track progress. Who tracks progress? Are we going to have a say in how this money is spent? Are we even going to be privy to how much money is being spent on these initiatives? And again, that brings me back to the statement I made previously with this almost $8 trillion relief package, since none of us are privy to how that money was allocated or doled out and to what purpose. Are we even going to know how much of our money is being spent on the invisible chains that will eventually imprison us all? Unleash AI resources. Increase access to federal data sets for AI R&D and testing. Centralization. That's all that is. Prioritize allocation of high-performance computing resources for AI. Now, if you haven't seen my report on Obama's executive order for supercomputing, the groundwork for this has been laid out years ago. Enable better use of cloud computing to advance federally funded AI R&D. Again, this is centralization of all data. All data will be collected on everyone, and you will be categorized and classified as favorable or unfavorable. You will be categorized and classified as either friend or slave, compliant, or foe, someone who will fight for their individual liberties and freedoms. Those people will be classified as enemies of the state. Remove barriers to AI innovation and foster trust, provide regulatory, develop relevant technical standards. This is all propaganda. This is all propaganda. And if you understand how artificial general intelligence works, you will not be able to standardize this, you will not be able to regulate it, and you will not be able to control its path to achieving its inevitable goal that has been set forth by it. Once it's unleashed, it cannot be put back. You can't put Pandora back in the box. Train AI-ready workforce. Again, more propaganda. Embrace trustworthy AI for government services and missions. Everything under this section is all geared to propaganda. Everything. You know, and I asked this question in one of my last videos. If you were being brainwashed, would you even realize it? Would you even know you're being brainwashed? This is 1984. George Orwell's 1984. It's here. It's here. It's not coming. It's not 2030. It's here now. How the federal government can adopt AI to better achieve its mission and improve services to the American people. Now, as I have explained over and over again for years and years, machine intelligence is goal-oriented. Have these people even considered the fact that once AI is unleashed and it starts to learn and it starts to evolve and it starts to propagate, that there will or there may come a point where the AI realizes that the problems that it was tasked to solve or to address was created by the people who programmed it in the first place. These AI investments continue to emphasize the broad spectrum of challenges in AI, including core AI research, use-inspired and applied AI R&D, computer system research in support of AI, and cyber infrastructure and data sets needed for AI. This is, and make no mistake, they're telling you, but they're telling you in code, this is the 5G rollout. And eventually, as Donald Trump would like us to see, to even go to 6G. You need a pipe that big to collect all the data required for them to collect in order to establish technocratic rule over not only the citizens of this country, but the citizens of the world. And James Clapper said in a GEOINT conference, and I did do a report on this, I think it was back in 2016, 2017, where he said, if we're not collecting all the data, then this program, and the program he was talking about was the GEOINT system, where they're going to be tracking and tracing and developing human terrain maps of everyone on the planet. So if we're not collecting all the data, the program will not succeed. Well, guess what? We're there, and he wins unless we find a way to fight this. Continuing. Cross-disciplinary AI investments focus on the wide range of applications of importance to the nation. Right there, they're telling you, cross-disciplinary AI investments focus on the wide range of applications of importance to the nation. Right there, they're telling you this is not narrow-based AI. This is broad-based artificial general intelligence. And again, I've been studying this and reporting on this for years. Right after we reach artificial general intelligence, it will be a term that we've been hearing so much about lately. The curve will be flattened, and then it will take an exponential spike to artificial superintelligence. And by that point, that's civilization ending. And it goes on to say, these areas of importance to the nation include science, medicine, communication, manufacturing, transportation, agriculture, and security. There is one main sector they omitted in that statement, and that is financial, banking, the money system, redistribution of wealth. All of that is omitted. But the AI, or what they're calling AI, which is actually artificial general intelligence, will have to take into consideration those sectors of the economy as well. Here's a quote from the Analytical Perspectives R&G chapter on the 2020 budget. Federal contributions in early-stage R&D can help lay the technical and scientific foundation for truly revolutionary new technologies, particularly those that require sustained support before becoming attractive for private sector investment. The President's 2020 budget prioritizes investments for 4 key industries of the future. Artificial intelligence, I think we pretty much covered that. Quantum information services, this is quantum and supercomputing. Again, go back to President Obama's initiative, executive order on supercomputing. Advanced communication networks, this is 5G and beyond, and advanced manufacturing. Make no mistake, this is talking about transferring or transcending the current model of manufacturing into the new model of manufacturing, which will be all automated. Let's just take a look at who of some of the key agencies that are playing leading roles in this push towards AI for the American people, or push towards total technocratic rule. DARPA, the Devil's Sandbox, the NSF, the National Science Foundation, NIST, the Artificial Intelligence Machine Learning Research at IARPA, which is a very close arm of DARPA, the Department of Energy, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Defense, the Department of National Security, the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, the Office of Science and Technology, the NIH, the National Institute for Health, which, make no mistake, Bill Gates is a major player and funder of that, NASA, NOAA, and the Department of Transportation. Now, if that doesn't cover all the bases, I don't know what to tell you. I apologize that this report is getting rather lengthy, but we really need to address it because it's happening and it's happening now. And we need to understand the different components in this executive order and this unleashing of this technology to an unsuspecting public. It states here the Select Committee then issued a request for information to solicit input from the public on the current AI R&D strategic plan to determine ways the strategy should be revised or improved. Now, I don't know about you, but they didn't ask me, and I'm pretty sure they didn't ask you. The public in this context are the big tech corporations and the global corporate conglomerates around the world. As far as the general public is concerned, we are not part of this plan. We are disposable. We are insignificant. Resistance is futile. They're going to assimilate everyone on the planet. While algorithms and data play strong roles in the performance of AI systems, equally important is the computing infrastructure upon which the AI system runs. Advances in AI will continue to be dependent on hardware optimized for AI algorithms, including novel designs for neuromorphic computing. That translation is artificial neural networks, and parallel architecture research motivated by AI processing requirements. You know, I'm not quite sure what they meant when I first read this, but then it dawned on me. Are they talking about parallel architecture motivated by AI processing requirements created by AI itself? Then it goes on to boast that the United States is a world leader in the development of high-performance computing infrastructure that supports AI research. Not really. China right now leads the world in this area. And we've seen how China has used its technology to lock down its people and track every movement they make, every place they go, everything they participate in the economy. And thanks to Google, they now have in place a social credit system, whereas if we don't push back against this, we're going to see this here sooner than later. I mean, once they get this thing, as they like to say, unleashed in America, then, I mean, the social credit system is right behind that. It's coming right behind it. And, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you can't see the dots being connected here with all of this stuff going on, I mean, how long is it going to be before we're like China and they have these social tracer systems that are in their phones that they buy? It's not like they have an option to download it from an app store. It comes, it's part of the phone. And how far are we from having that same type of Orwellian monitoring and tracking as part of the onboard software in our cell phones? I mean, the cell phones right now, they got a life expectancy of about 2 years. So given all of this, I mean, we're all pretty much about ready to replace our devices with the new and improved ones being available on the market. But what will they include? High-quality data sets are critically important for training many types of AI systems. So what have I been telling you? AI learns and evolves on its own. And now they're going to give it everything. I mean, it's like fertilizer for the explosion of this thing on the global information grid and, the neural net being created by worldwide interconnected computing systems known as the Internet of Things, which will very shortly have to be revised to the Internet of Everything. And it goes on to say the federal government facilitates AI innovation by investing in shared public data sets. Bingo. That is centralization and consolidation of all data on the planet. Remember what I told you earlier in this report, what Clapper said at the GEOINT convention in 2016-27. If we're not collecting all the data on everyone everywhere, the system will not work. It addresses federal data models, blah, 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 blah. And we've all seen how federal data models have worked in the past with the global warming and most recently the coronavirus pandemic models that they shoved down our throat, which were completely inaccurate in their findings. These data models are nothing more than garbage in, garbage out, and they can make those models appear to say whatever they want them to appear to promote their agenda. Remember that. Autonomous systems such as unmanned aircraft systems or drones and self-driving vehicles offer tremendous benefits to our economy and society. No, it doesn't. It offers tremendous control and restrictions to where we can travel, if we can travel, when we can travel, how we can travel. More propaganda. I mean, it's nauseating. It really is. If you can see through the veil of everything that's going on here, I mean, this is just, it's right in our face and nobody's paying attention. And healthcare. This is very disturbing. And I don't think I have to point out all the aspects of what make it disturbing. But what I do want to point out is they mention in collaboration with the American Academy of Family Physicians and the Laura and John Arnold Foundation, which I have not looked into up until this point, participants will analyze large healthcare data sets and develop proposals, AI-driven models, here we go with the models again, and frameworks that accurately predict unplanned hospital and SNF admissions and adverse events. Can we say pandemic? Manufacturing in the American workforce. Well, I think we've pretty much covered that, so I'm not going to waste your time going through, all the quotes and propaganda in this section of the executive order. But here, the National Strategic Plan on Advanced Manufacturing, that is nothing more than automating everything. And that would only benefit the large corporate concerns, because as we see right now, they're killing the middle class, they're killing the mom and pops, they're killing the engine of this economy. And they're doing that in order to funnel up everything into a select few number of corporations that will be the be-all and the end-all to go for whatever and everything and anything that you need to sustain life in a technocratic society. Now might be a good time to look into Microsoft's patent 060606. This patent pretty much paves the way for the abolition of cash and currency systems as we know it, and instead adopting what's being dubbed now, it may be called something else a little later down the road, but right now it's known as FedCoin. And this is a type of blockchain technology that will monitor everything. Everything, you purchase, everything that you have in your digital wallet. This technology will have access to either deposit or withdraw digital currency from your wallet, and it'll all be centrally controlled. Now, FedCoin will absolutely remove the self-sovereign identity portion of citizens, all citizens. Taxation under this system will be automatic. So you'll automatically be charged a transaction tax on everything you do, everything you buy, everywhere you go, everything you use. I mean, that's going to become automatic. There'll be no more IRS. Oh, you think that's a good thing? No, it's not. I mean, the IRS is nothing more than the enforcement arm of the Federal Reserve anyway, but this will be much worse. Now, from what I understand, that this cryptocurrency system or digital currency system will be based on human activity. More specifically, what's being termed as using body activity data. Well, what does that mean? From what I've been able to glean based on this patent and this new technology, you will be either given points or cryptocurrency based on things like viewing certain ads, viewing certain videos, using certain internet tools. You would also gain points or credits to your digital wallet for using certain types of products over other types of products. Again, this goes to, the mass centralization of all products and services required by people, to pretty much exist in society, up to a select few mega corporations and big tech corporations, and everyone else under them, under that plateau, will be wiped out. And if you read the descriptions under the CPI section of this patent, it pretty much states that data processing systems or methods specially adapted for administrative, commercial, financial, managerial, supervisory, forecasting purposes, systems or methods specifically adapted for administrative and on and on and on, forecasting purposes, period, not otherwise provided for. And it's that not otherwise provided for that is a clause that leaves the door open to anything else they deem they can apply this system to that is not specified in this patent. Each one of these basically says the same thing. And under electrical digital data processing, it states input arrangements for transferring data to be processed into a form capable of being handled by the computer, by AGI. Output arrangements for transferring data from processing unit to output unit, e.g. interface arrangements. This is the social credit system I've been talking about. This is how this will be used. Processing unit to output or input interfaces. I highly recommend that my viewers go to this article. I'll leave a link in it below. Bill Gates, Vaccinations, Microchips, and Patent 060606. It was written on April 29, 2020 by Leonid Savin. And I just want to point out that this patent, this was not a U.S. patent per se. This patent was granted international status. And this is the patent that we just discussed before, cryptocurrency system using body activity data. Make no mistake, in the vaccine push being promoted by just about everyone in authority,
that have this horrible plague that's set into our country, and that we're getting rid of, and we're going to be having some really incredible results. We have
that's set into our country.
Very promising
we're getting rid of
studies coming out on the vaccines. We have promising studies coming out on therapeutics.
Make no mistake, the vaccines that they're pushing for the coronavirus and everything else on the planet will provide the data transmission and receivers necessary to uplink us all, assimilate us all into this nightmarish Orwellian technocratic system that will be governed by psychopaths and managed by artificial general intelligence. These vaccines will contain the required technology to transmit and receive data. And with that, I would like to leave you with this. This article was published January 20, 2020. Not bot, not beast. Scientists create first ever living programmable organism. This week, a research team of roboticists and scientists published their recipe for making a new life form called xenobots from stem cells being derived from frogs. One of the researchers described the creation as neither a traditional robot nor a known species of animal, but a new class of artifact, a living programmable organism. And, for those of you who haven't seen it, I did a report earlier this year entitled AI. It's not artificial intelligence. It's a silicone-based life form. And that's exactly what they're talking about right here. It goes on to say, to make xenobots, the research team used a supercomputer to test thousands of random designs of simple living things that can perform certain tasks. The computer was programmed with an AI evolutionary algorithm to protect which organisms would likely display useful tasks, such as moving towards a target. The article goes on to say that despite being described as programmable living robots, they are actually completely organic and made of living tissue. The term robot has been used because xenobots can be configured into different forms and shapes and programmed to target certain objects, which they can then unwittingly seek. Who programs them? Who sends out the commands? And here's a scary thing. They can also repair themselves after being damaged. Oh my gosh. Here it notes that xenobots designed with carefully shaped pouches might be able to carry drugs into human bodies. Life is incredibly complex. Yes, because it was created by the Creator. So manipulating living things could reveal some of life's mysteries and improve our use of AI. And I'll leave a link to this article below, and you can watch the video, which is a time-lapse recording of building living robots. I just want to leave this with you as food for thought as to the unending speculation of what might be contained in these vaccines that they are going to try and mandate on the public, not just here in the U.S., but globally. What they may contain and what hazards they may present and how they may ultimately, inevitably control life, period. The life of everyone and everything that receives these vaccines. Thank you for watching, and please share this video. It's Creative Commons, so you shouldn't get any type of copyright strike or anything from reposting or republishing it anywhere. Although, you may get a strike for violating community guidelines if you do try and repost this on social media. I would ask, though, that if you found this or any of my other reports valuable, that you go to my website, Level 9 News, and click on the Support Us button. You can make a donation Or you can also subscribe for, I think it's $1.99 a month or something like that, where you can actually comment on these articles. You can put your opinions. You can establish and participate in forums, in different topical threads of conversation. You may find this useful. I've turned off monetization on my YouTube account because I refuse to support a platform that is censoring free speech. Thank you.